There is an age-old axiom in college football. When you think that we are talking about the quarterbacks too much, let's talk some more about the quarterbacks because nothing is more important. This is the College Game Day Podcast. We are winding down the final few days of July. In fact, as you listen to this, and we are extremely grateful that you're listening along with us, we're less than a month until week 0 and the kickoff of the 2025 college football season, highlighted by the game in Dublin between Iowa State and Kansas State. Rece Davis and Pete Thamel with you. Pete, quarterback battles are dotting what will likely be the preseason top 25, a lot of high-profile ones. In fact, just yesterday, I was spending some time at Notre Dame visiting with Marcus Freeman. They have a quarterback battle. I think there is a presumption there that C.J. Carr will ultimately win that battle, but Kenny Minchey had a great spring for the Fighting Irish, so certainly that is far from settled. There are many more dotting teams that will finish, or I should say start, ranked among the top 10 teams in the country. And it's one of the things that I remember a few years ago when we were doing our conference previews, which, by the way, will start next week. People at Georgia got really mad at me after Carson Beck was going to become the quarterback and Stetson Bennett had finished his illustrious reign. And I said, I know Georgia has the best roster. I just want to see the quarterback. Just let me see him play a little bit. And I think that's true with a lot of these teams. As I'm working on my preseason rankings, I'm running across that a lot. I really like this team. I don't know about the quarterback. I need to see the quarterback.
Very fair, Rece, and I am going to do a modest hijack here of the pod, as I do occasionally, and to accentuate the conversation we're about to have at these different schools. I'm going to ask you a little trivia question, Rece.
Okay.
I know from College Game Day and from our office, you fancy yourself a maestro of recent college football trivia.
What a setup.
So
I'm about to get nuked.
I have two questions, and they're each going to have two parts. And this will lead us well into getting to the nitty-gritty on some of these. Obviously, a lot of these quarterbacks are freshmen, be it redshirt freshmen or even true freshmen at a few places, who are going to be relied on. And I think some of them will thrive, and some of them will struggle, as history would dictate. So, Rece, can you tell me how many true freshmen, not redshirt, true freshman quarterbacks this century led their teams to 10-plus wins as a starter as a true freshman?
Oh, 10-plus wins. See, immediately my wheels
I saw you smiled. You smiled.
Yeah,
you
because
thought you had
like,
me.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I've got Jamel Holloway. Whoops, no, this century.
Yep.
That's not it.
Yep.
Let's see, true freshman to 10 wins. Menzel was a redshirt freshman. Let's see.
While you're thinking, I'm going to compliment our friend. I'm going to compliment our friend Sopin, who did this diligent research. Sopin Shaw, one of our fine stats and info guys.
Okay, I've got one.
Go.
Jalen Hurts.
You are correct. That is one.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you there's 4 at this point. And I think that's instructive
okay.
for the conversation because if only 4 guys in a quarter century have led to 10-plus wins, it's a lot to ask, right? It's not impossible, but it's difficult.
Right. Okay, let me see. 10-plus wins this century. Boy, that's extraordinarily difficult.
It is. Luckily, you're extraordinarily intellectual and have spent a lot of time in this space. Between rap shows and Thursday games.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find the quarterbacks because Jameis was a red shirt.
Correct.
Menzel was a red shirt. 10-win team. You know what? Marcus Mariota was a red shirt, wasn't he?
He was.
He was a red shirt too.
I'll give you a hint. One of them won the national title.
Okay, this century, true freshman won the national title. Okay, this is an obvious one that I'm going to be very mad that I missed.
Even has nicer hair than you.
Even has nicer. Well, that's simply not true.
He has better hair deals than you on shampoo and such.
Better hair deals than shampoo. Oh, I'm drawing. It's early in the morning when we record this.
That's fine.
I'm drawing a blank. Who is it?
It's Trevor Lawrence.
Oh gosh, yes, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
so,
it. And he's my quarterback in Jacksonville.
I
What am
know.
that?
I know.
You know what? I deserve a demerit for that one. That's
You are a
easy.
disappointment to Duval. So
Yeah.
there's two others. Rece, I could give you 1,000 guesses and you wouldn't get one of them. Like
Okay.
1,000 guesses. Like
Well,
I
I
would
didn't
have
get
even guessed.
Trevor.
I would have guessed
I'm
two
not
other
in
guys
midseason
at
form. I
the
didn't
school.
even get
That's
Trevor
okay. That's
Lawrence.
okay.
I mean,
Now, and
that's
one of them you might be modestly annoyed by because you'd remember it, but he didn't stand out. So I'm going to give them to you now. It is
okay.
Jake Fromm at Georgia.
Wow. I'd forgotten.
Yeah,
I'd
I didn't.
forgotten right
That
now
one
that
didn't
Jake
jump at
played
me
as a
either.
true freshman. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
that one
forgotten
didn't
he
jump at
played
me
as a
either.
freshman.
And
Yeah.
this one is glorious. It's glorious. And Soapin's going to be mad that we use it because he wanted to use it as an Aflac trivia. Because nobody in the world would have got Jeff Godfrey from UCF in 2010, who didn't even finish his career as a quarterback. I believe he got beat out by Blake Bortles.
Right.
So that,
You-
but I do think, I mean, I don't know the number of freshman starters who've started enough games to do this, but I said, if you are going to rely on a true freshman, as they may in Ann Arbor and they may in other places, the empirical evidence of this century, I think, would show that, it would be tough. Now, the second part of this trivia question is redshirt. Can you guess how many redshirts won 10 plus games in this, since 2000?
Okay. Well, I gave
Yeah,
you three.
you were good. You had quite a few.
Yeah, I gave you three there because Mariota did it.
Yep.
Jameis did it, and Johnny Manziel
I'll tell
won.
you that two did it last year.
Two redshirt
Two
freshmen.
redshirt freshmen won 10 plus games last year. Both went to the playoff.
Okay. Well, just go through the playoff teams and see who that was. Kevin Jennings was not. He was a sophomore, wasn't
Correct. Yes, he was.
he? So it was not them. It certainly wasn't Curtis Rourke. It wasn't Riley Leonard. Wasn't Carson Beck. Wasn't Quinn Ewers. It wasn't
No.
Drew Aller. I'm a process of elimination here. It wasn't Drew Aller. It wasn't Will Howard.
You're really doing a good job eliminating.
I don't. I'm eliminating, and now I'm trying to think who else was even in the playoff at that day. Wasn't Dylan Gabriel? One
went worst to first.
Nico Iamaleava.
Correct.
Is one. Okay, and what was it? I think what was the other playoff game?
Worst to first.
Klubnik was not. Sam. I just saw Sam Levitt in Tempe a couple weeks ago. So Sam Levitt's the other guy, right?
I know.
That's right.
Someone get Rece Davis some caffeine there at that hotel. This is
I know it. I'm behind. Yeah. I'm looking.
Yeah.
I was distracted because I was looking to see if Jeff Godfrey was the one who I think it was not him. I called a UCF game, which they won on a Hail Mary.
That's fun.
To
How was your call?
Perriman, that he might have thrown it. It was pretty good. I think
good.
Lincoln Riley and the fellas who was running the offense in East Carolina might have squandered the opportunity to completely run out the clock because it looked as if the game was going to be over.
So unlike the air raid guys to do that.
Then all of a sudden it wasn't. Yeah, that was 14. So that was
okay. That would have been Bortles, maybe.
For some reason, I don't think it was.
Okay.
I don't think it was Bortles.
Right.
Talk about something right quick, Pete. Let me.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to look this up right quick. I'll look it up.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
Give me.
Do.
What else are you?
Please do.
What else
Let's challenge Adrian, our
quarterback?
producer, to find the call from that game so we can sprinkle it in of Rece Davis bringing the. Were they the Golden Knights then, or just the Knights to victory over the Pirates?
Okay, I've got it right here.
All right.
The call is easy to find. But here's another one. I'm not trying to one-up you, certainly, on trivia, because this is meaningless trivia. It was not Bortles who threw it, and it was not Jeff Godfrey who threw it. And I called the game, and you could have given me 1,000 guesses. And I think my brain's so overloaded and stuffed with names and numbers and moments, and I would not have been able to pull the guy who threw the ball. You got any idea?
So are we George O'Leary still? Or have we moved on?
Yeah.
You're George O'Leary still. So late O'Leary, I'm not going to know. Yeah.
It's a man called Justin Holman.
I vaguely remember Justin Holman.
I remember Justin Holman. Yeah. I do now. But trying to pull it out of nowhere would have been pretty good. Looking at the box score from that game, Holman threw for 274 and and the touchdown, which was a 51-yard Hail Mary to Rashad Perriman as time expired. So
probably didn't have the best game until the final play, but that's okay.
Yeah,
they rated on style points.
32-30, great Thursday night, classic Thursday night type game. So which quarterback battle among these and some of these?
Can we finish our rabbit hole here? Can we finish our rabbit hole? Because you're going to enjoy the rest of this. So there's 16 redshirt freshmen.
Wow,
so there's 16 redshirt freshmen, and I'm not going to like read it off like a list. But Rece, the reason I brought this up and was excited when I texted you about this last night, there are some beautiful names on this list, like beautiful for the hardcore college football fan. Redshirt freshman, 10 plus wins as a starter. I will give you a hint on one.
Give me some teams and let me see if I can get it.
So Arizona goes to the Pac-12 title game in 2014. Their redshirt freshman quarterback is Willie.
Oh man, what? I'm not pulling the name. Tuitoma to
You're in the right region.
Yeah. What's was his first name Willie? Is that right?
Anu Solomon.
Oh, Anu Solomon. No, who am I thinking about?
I think he transferred to Baylor at the end of his
career. I remember Anu Solomon. Who's the other Arizona quarterback that I'm thinking
the one who like stormed onto the scene and ran for 1 million yards. Oh, he was a Will. Yeah, he ended up like on the cover of Sports Illustrated and then he totally tanked.
That was right. It's a Willie Tuitama, but Anu Solomon was the right answer. Willie Tuitama was the guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I had not heard the name. Older. I had not heard the name. Anu Solomon in a good decade. Khalil Tate is the other guy from that era of Arizona. Remember, Khalil Tate famously prevented Kenny Niumatalolo from getting the Arizona job.
Wishbone.
Yes.
And now look at Ken Niumatalolo. All he's doing is running the ball. All he did was have a receiver who led the nation in receptions, like Nick Nash or whatever.
Yes, the unbelievably named spread and shred offense that Craig Stutzman brought into to San Jose State.
Who else you got? Give me another.
Here's fun. So we're going to go a little Central Michigan for you. Little Central Michigan, 10 wins in 06.
Dan Lefevre.
You've got the fever, Rece Davis. We have a mid-2010s Northwestern on the list.
Mid-2010s Northwestern.
I would not have got this one.
No, I can't recall right now.
Clayton Thorson.
You know what? Clayton Thorson, he was number 18. He had a pretty big arm.
Yeah. No,
Clayton Thorson was he might have gotten a chance in the pros, didn't he?
He might have.
I think he did.
We have an early Dave Clawson era Wake Forest redshirt freshman from early 2000s who I believe did get a chance in the pros. He started there forever.
Early Dave Clawson,
Wake Forest.
Clayton Thorson had like 3 years in the NFL and another year in the USFL.
Oh, wow.
As I look here. So he did okay. The Clawson quarterback at Wake Forest.
Yes.
I don't have it. Can't pull it right
Riley
now.
Skinner.
Oh, we should know that. Riley Skinner played forever. Yeah, he was
forever.
He was at Wake. He was
8 years.
Wake Forest. He was a teammate of John Malkovich's at Wake Forest. He was there a long time.
Well,
that's bad. I'm really flunking trivia. I'm going to have to improve.
Well, it's preseason conditioning, Rece. You got to get ready. Right. So you haven't been running your gassers, your trivia gassers. So we got to get you. We got to get you on point. Coastal Carolina, COVID year. He was there for 100 years. He won 10 as a true freshman.
Okay, great, Grayson McCall.
Okay, that was a fun name, I thought. Yeah. And then, yes. Oh, the Blue Turf, Boise State.
Kellen, right?
Kellen won 12 as a red shirt. And then the rest of the names.
And won like 50 as a starter before he finished. So that worked out.
Yes. No, exactly. Yeah. And then there's one random Florida State that I would not have guessed from about a decade ago who won 10 as a red shirt in 2016.
Won 10 as a red shirt. Oh, Chris Ricks? No.
He sounds like a French power forward.
Oh, DeAndre Francois.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, right.
The rest of the names, yeah.
Can I tell a
Yeah,
quick
go,
DeAndre
please. Yeah, no,
Francois story?
please. Yeah.
I was at Florida State practicing camp when Jimbo was still there, and DeAndre was quarterback, probably going into his second year as a starter. And as Jimbo Fisher was wont to do from time to time, I mean, he got into him over a mistake, just went at him, and DeAndre kind of went back at him. And so afterwards, I'm up in Jimbo's office talking to him, and I asked him about the moment, and Jimbo goes, "Oh, I like that." He goes, "That's when I know that they're starting to get it and that they understand the offense." He said, because he's going back at me about what he saw. He said, last year he wouldn't do that. He said, last year I just get into him, he just take it. And he said, I kind of like it when they start going back at me. So
that's a good story.
Now I'm sure there's a line that you don't want to cross in going back at the head coach. But famously too, and I'm not saying this to pick on Jesse Palmer in the least, but Jesse, and it shows you also how I've tried to learn that one practice can be extraordinarily misleading. We were doing, Jesse and David Pollock and I were doing the Florida State opener, Jameis's first year as the starter. And it was a virtuoso performance by Jameis. He threw 27 passes, none of which hit the ground. All were caught by Florida State people. Two of them, unfortunately for Jameis, were caught out, one out of the back of the end zone and one just over the out of bounds line. He was 25-27. I want to say 4 touchdown passes. He was brilliant. Sure. Okay. But Jesse had gone to practice on a day in which, and Jimbo had said throughout that it was a real quarterback race between Jameis and Jacob Coker. Mm-hmm. And Jesse had gone to a practice on a day in which it did not go brilliantly for Jameis. And Jameis got kicked out of practice. And basically because he was screwing stuff up and not doing stuff to Jimbo's liking. And Jacob Coker did have a great practice. So Jesse wisely, and because we had been told, you never know, right here, we believe in Coker. He could play here. And so Jesse in the pregame wisely and understandably said, look, things don't go well. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see Jacob Coker. And Jameis goes out and it looks like a 10-year NFL veteran out there. Hits every single pass in the world. But so the quarterback battles can be misleading. And the most important thing that happens for these quarterback races is, what do they do when the big lights come on? Because there are a lot of guys who can be great in practice, and when it speeds up just a tick in the real live game, sometimes maybe the guy who presumably won the battle stays at that same level and continues to perform, but there's that little extra something in the other guy that when the lights come on, he elevates, or maybe he doesn't play. He's not a practice guy or whatever. And that's the thing you don't know when you're all of these teams predicted to be near the top. I'm looking at one set of preseason rankings, and let's say that you believe that Texas and Georgia, which I certainly believe Texas, and hopefully for Georgia's sake, that they found their quarterback. But Penn State and Clemson are set. We presume Texas is. Notre Dame, we'll see. Ohio State, we'll see. Georgia, I would still argue, we'll see. Alabama.
Can I interject on Georgia quick?
Oregon.
Yeah. Kirby, one of the best lines from SEC Media Days. Kirby was talking about how important it is for Gunnar Stockton to have a player who loves the school, the state, all the old kind of college stuff. And he just goes, country kid, small town Georgia, got a sister named Georgia.
Yeah.
I was like, you really got to love Georgia if you got a sister named Georgia.
I thought that was great too. Believe me, now that I didn't have the great quarterback notes put in my notes, but the fact that Gunnar has a sister named Georgia is definitely in the preseason notes to be used when we get opportunities to do so. Be going down the list. I mean, Oklahoma, some people have them highly ranked. They should be set. But you know what? I mean, competition's elevating. The offense is new. John Mateer is a fine player. Yeah. He got away with a lot of stuff last year that he will not get away with, against Michigan and then against the SEC teams. So,
sure. Can I make a quick Mateer observation? So, yeah. SEC media days are great. They bring these guys in. You get to talk to them a little bit, get to know them a little bit. And it was very clear to me, Rece, that Mateer had a vibe about him. This isn't a negative. I just want to be clear. It's just a difference that I noticed. He was like, whoa, this was like, he was not happy to be there, isn't the right thing, but he was a little wide-eyed, I think would be the right way to say it. He just,
Yeah.
on the old Palouse in the Pac-2, he just wasn't quite used to this level of attention. And I found him to be unbelievably genuine. He was confident, but yet very like unflailingly small town Texas played. He's from Little Elm, which he said isn't that little. It
Yeah.
has 50,000 people. Um,
Yeah.
but I do think that it was just like, you see some of these guys sort of walk in and they've been 5 stars their whole life. They've been like the large media throngs at these big schools have hung on their every word. And there was just John Mateer just had a aw shucks nonchalance about him that I just found to be really interesting as it went along. A good story he relayed that I picked up along the way is that Mac Leftwich, who's now the
Hmm.
OC at Texas Tech. This is a quintessential me story, so you can feel free to mock me when I'm done. He went with Eric Morris from North Texas to Washington State. They brought Cam Ward with them, obviously, famously, right?
Hmm.
And they didn't really have a young quarterback in the program at the time. So Mac Leftwich steps out of the facility, calls John Mateer, who's committed to Central Arkansas, and says, "Hey, would you like decommit and come visit and potentially flip?" And Mateer said, "Heck yeah," and did it. The kicker is Mac Leftwich left Washington State. Like, sometimes you take guys on the plane and then the
Hmm.
position doesn't shake out. I think he got a chance to go call plays at Texas State, so he left. But for a 2 week stint on the Palouse, he got a couple of dry fits, and he left him a pretty good signal caller. He also brought Emmett Brown, who started last year at San Jose State, who ended up being another starter. So that's like pretty good work. I thought that was like one of those funny, quirky, like the way things fall stories.
I I think that this year, more than any other, is going to rise and fall on quarterback play for contenders. Um, there are so many teams that have, in my judgment, every piece that you need,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of that. And maybe they have that, but you have to see it. Then you also worry about injury for these teams. Okay, what if they have it, but then their guy gets dinged up? Um, even Miami, they think they have Carson Beck. Carson Beck's coming back from the injury. I mean, they do have Carson Beck, but they think they have healthy, productive, ready to go
Sure.
Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Is that the case? Is he? How's that going to be coming in? Of these quarterback battles, I would say that quarterback battles slash questions. I think as interesting as any of them to me is Ohio State.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, sure.
with Julian Sayin, who most people seem to think will win the job, but then Lincoln Keenholz was very good in the spring, pushed him, uh, it seems, and staked his claim to have the opportunity. They have to have the quarterback function at a high level. I went back because I made reference to this. I went back and looked at Marvin Harrison Jr.'s game log.
Hmm.
And there were a couple of games early, even though he and
Oh, yeah.
Kyle McCord had that long-standing relationship
Mm-hmm.
in which they had a little trouble involving him. Now, I know you'd look at the game log, and there was a 100-yard game early in there against a lower-ranked school. But I remember the opener against Indiana. He didn't get many touches. Then that game where we were for College Game Day on the road that Ohio State pulled out in the end at Notre Dame, he
Mm-hmm.
didn't get many, and I think he got dinged up in that game, but he also didn't get a lot of touches in that game. And it was later in the year before they found their stride of getting him involved in the offense. And I'm not suggesting that's going to necessarily be the case at Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith and a new quarterback, but it is something to at least keep an eye on, because
Oh, yeah.
they have to be able to use arguably the best weapon in the sport and use it often. Now, and they also have a new offensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. It's a really interesting thing, because even with all the turnover on defense, that is the one you sort of feel like, okay, all of these highly recruited guys at Ohio State will be fine once they get their time to get more reps, more snaps. to replace the JTTs and the Jack Sawyers and the Cody Simons. They'll replace those guys. They'll be fine. The quarterback and utilizing that particular weapon efficiently, especially early against what I think is going to be a really good Texas defense, is I think the most fascinating battle perhaps of all of them.
I think so too, Rece. And I think the interesting thing about Julian Sayin versus Lincoln Kienholz, and you'd be proud of me. I went and I looked up the pronunciation guide last night. It's pretty clean once you look at it. You'll never forget it. Kienholz.
Yeah.
And it's Ryan Day's choice is going to involve a choice of styles. Julian Sayin is not a runner. He is a pure drop back passer. He's also not a big human being, Rece. Right? Like have you ever stood next to him on the field?
I have, yes.
Okay, yeah.
On
like
the
he's
field,
just like, again, he's also 19, whatever. Like he's there is time to develop and grow, but he is not a guy who they are going to use at all in the run game. They are going to be a more pure pro style offense, where Lincoln Kienholz is a gifted runner, and they could use him like they use Will Howard, where the run, he's not quite Will Howard, but the run would be at least a weapon in their in their arsenal. We've seen Ryan Day, to a strong degree of success, sort of operate both styles at Ohio State. I think the interesting thing, and look, the Smith thing has to be a concern. That has to be something that they're talking about in the in the building there, because whoever it is, they need to get the ball to the best player on offense in college football. They also have probably the best player on defense in college football. But I do think a couple factors here. The name Max Clare should be one that fans know. Mm-hmm. He's a tight end. Ohio State has not featured the tight end really from the whole Urban Day era in any significant way. They've had a couple guys here. They had Hireman. They've had a few guys drafted mid-round, but they have not had a guy like Max Clare who has that type of dynamism. So I really think having him as a safety valve, if you will, an escape hatch, security blanket, is going to help whoever the starter is. And look, Carnell Tate is right now probably a top 50 projected player. Mm-hmm. It is not odd for Ohio State under Brian Hartline to have multiple high end guys, and Brandon Ennis is obviously very good.
I was about to bring him up. He was the guy when they signed him and recruited him. Big time guy too. They're not lacking for weapons around Jeremiah Smith. For sure.
No, so that will help bring along whoever it is. And I do think one of the things when I was through there in the spring for Pro Day, there's a lot of confidence in this offensive line, Rece. And now look, last year, because of the Michigan game, everything gets magnified through the Michigan game. There was maybe a notion that their O-line, because they got smoked in that game, wasn't great. But I really thought that line was a linchpin for them as it kind of came together through the playoff. Now they have a new O-line coach, but the thought is with the left tackle they got from Rece, Oniawara, that they have a lot of starts and a lot of guys who played a lot of games for them there, and that's going to be a strength. Running back, a little bit of unknown. They like James Peoples, but he really hasn't done it. At the type of stage he's going to have to going into the opener. So yeah, it's going to be a different identity, I think, for the Buckeyes, and that's a fascinating battle. It's Big Ten Media Days this week. I'm sure Ryan Day is going to say what most coaches say at this time, that it's wide open and those things. But I do genuinely believe that. I think that Lincoln Kienholz outplayed Julian Sayin for much of the spring from the reports out of there. Sayin had a better spring game, and that's what pulled it back even. Mm-hmm. So it will be interesting to see who takes snap one under center against Arch.
Yeah, and when I say these things about involving Jeremiah Smith, I don't want that misconstrued as I'm saying he's going to become unhappy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if Ohio State's going to reach its full potential, they've got to get it to him. And so you say, well, easy, just design him plays, which means throw the ball to him, quick screens and stuff like that. But you can't make a living on that. And at some point, defenses are so good, they know a young quarterback hasn't seen a lot of stuff. So they're going to throw wrinkles, disguises, bracket coverages, different things to make it seem like he shouldn't throw the ball there. Things like that to confuse them, that a guy, once he gets some reps under his belt, might do it anyway. Of course, then again, probably a pretty good rule of thumb for number 4 in scarlet and gray. If he's covered, he's still open. Just
Yeah.
find a
Yeah.
spot and let him.
You wonder if they bubble him a little bit, gadget him a little bit. You know what I
I
mean? Do
would think they
some, yeah.
will. Yeah, I think they will. And also, you know what? Another weapon there at the running back position. They landed C.J. Donaldson, right?
They did. Yeah.
From West Virginia, who,
Solid.
yeah,
Yep.
he's played a little tight end in his day too. He's a big tight end sized guy, running back. I think he's got over 2,000 career yards at West Virginia running. So Ohio State's going to be fine. While we're on the Big Ten and their arch rival and the pain in their derrieres and in their side right now, Michigan's quarterback situation, the presumptive starter ultimately at some point is Bryce Underwood, the multi-million-dollar freshman, uber talented, flipped from LSU to go to Michigan. But a lot thrown at him early in the spring and maybe didn't run away with everything. Might it take Bryce Underwood a little time to establish himself as the starter at Michigan? They got Mikey Keene, who I think he's coming off an injury, who's been around UCF and Fresno State, but he's been productive in his career. I mean, I feel like Keene, if healthy, is a really really good safety valve to not have to rush the talented freshman.
Yeah. Didn't they pick up Garcia, the well-traveled quarterback late, who had last been Jake Garcia? Remember Jake Garcia? He was committed to.
And they still have Davis Warren too,
and they do have Davis Warren too.
Yeah.
So
and he played a lot for them last year, and at times played okay.
Yeah. So that's what it's definitely one of the they have one of the stranger quarterback battles maybe that we're going to have. And I do think all signs point to Bryce Underwood eventually, but it's one of the reasons why we kind of started this exercise with the trivia question, because the history of winning the way Michigan wants to win with a true freshman quarterback is there's a limited there. Now look, Bryce Underwood is a rare talent, and he could be ready for the moment. The contrast here, I think, Rece, comes with the complementary skill. I don't think Michigan's receiving core has anyone in the Big Ten really shaking their boots. They have Donovan McCauley, who was a very good receiver at Indiana, but not elite, coming there. And then they have Anthony Simpson, who transferred from UMass. Frederick Moore's there. Samaj Morgan is probably like the name you recognize the most coming back. They have an excellent tight end in Marlon Klein, who played really well last year. In place of the injured Colston Loveland. I think he may be one of their better offensive weapons. And then Justice Haynes comes from Bama as the tailback. So there's just a lot of unknown around there. Michigan's going to be good up front under Sherrone Moore. I think that they've earned the right to just assume a high-end Big Ten offensive line there because of the past pedigree and what they've done. But I just think they're, not only do you have unsettled quarterback situation, but I do think around that quarterback there's not a lot of production and not a lot of knowns.
I think Justice Haynes is going to be tremendous at Michigan. I think the style that with which he runs and the offensive line that they have, I think this really, really suits him. I'm sure he was a little frustrated that he didn't get the ball a little more often at Alabama, but this was one of those transfers that when it was announced that he was going to Michigan, I was like, oh, that's a perfect fit. I was like, that's a smart move for him in his career. I think he has a chance with a young quarterback and a coach who likes to rely upon the running game. I think he's got a chance to have a really special year for them. If they can take care of the ball and be able to run the ball as often as they would like to, they don't find themselves behind and stuff like that. I think Justice Haynes have a big year for Michigan. As I mentioned, I was in South Bend yesterday, and I'm looking forward to people seeing these visits that we have with the coaches, where we're doing things with them that they like to do away from football itself. Instead, like our spectacular coordinating producer for College Game Day, Matt Garrett, has seen some of the raw video of it, and he goes, "This is a lot better than the old knee to knee, sit down talk, where you sit down,
Sure.
you sit down, you got the big logo behind everybody, knee to knee, and you ask about quarterback play and stuff."
Can we ask what you and Marcus did?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I don't want to give away any of the Game Day secrets.
No, it's okay.
Get in trouble.
Marcus might not want to talk about it. There'll be more on that a little bit later. But we could have gone. We could have gone for a run in the morning, and I would have been left in the dust. We did not do that. Certainly, you can look at Marcus Freeman and know that we could have gone to the weight room, and it would have. I would have been left in the dust. But Marcus Freeman has a passion whenever there's any downtime whatsoever on the plane, in hotels, whatever. Once everything's done, loves to play cards. So we played cards and had a great visit. It was a lot of fun.
What'd you play?
We played a game that he taught me called Tonk.
Never heard of Tonk.
Well, Tonk, it's a partially trick catching game. So I played an inordinate amount of a game called Rook when I was a much younger guy, and I'm certainly familiar with spades. Played a lot of rum and stuff like that. So the concepts weren't foreign to me.
Cousins.
And we played. And all I've got to say is that when we finished rolling tape, Marcus is going to kill me for saying this, but I'm going to. He said it on tape. You'll see it. He goes, "You think you're finished, but we're not leaving until I win." All I've got to say is that Marcus lost more Tonk games than the Fighting Irish are going to lose football games this year. I can tell you that.
Well, game day was due some wins in South Bend because my fishing with Riley Leonard did not go well for me. So I'm glad. I'm glad our team could claim a W or two.
I can tell you this: some lucky moments, some beginners' luck moments with Marcus Freeman and Tonk will more than make up for. I think I'm going to hit tennis balls with Ryan Day. Now, way back in the day, Pete, I didn't grow up playing tennis, played a little bit, as a kid. Yeah. I mean, as a teenager growing up. And then in college and early professional, I've hacked around. I actually had a roommate for a while who'd been a college tennis player. And we get out there and hack around. I never got good. I got mildly proficient where I could go with someone else who wasn't good and we could play and get a good workout in. I have not touched a tennis racket in at least 20 and I think 25 years.
Wow.
I haven't touched one. So that's going to be embarrassing. And I think, and I'm giving this away a little bit, but being a New Englander, if I share that story with Ryan Day, perhaps I will tell him, I'll say, now, famously as a New Englander, Ted Williams came back for an old timers game long after he finished. And the big question around was, will Ted hit? Will he not hit? Will he hit? Will he not hit? And then Ted eventually stepped in and just started hitting missiles, ropes. And somebody in the dugout, one of the other old timers, said, man, that is remarkable. Ted hasn't played in, 10 years or whatever it is. And here he comes, just picks up a bat, and it's like he never left. And the guy looked at him and said, are you crazy? Ted Williams has been hitting in a cage every day for 6 weeks, just in case he decided he might hit for this. This isn't that. That will be the first time I touch a racket, perhaps in a quarter century. So there will be some embarrassing moments, I'm sure, but good conversation, I trust, with the Buckeye skipper. But I digress. Anyway, Marcus has a quarterback race on his hand. Mm-hmm. They had a 3-way race in the spring, and Steve Angeli, who was, they love Steve Angeli at Notre Dame, had that great moment coming off the bench for Riley Leonard in the Penn State game in the Orange Bowl. But, he finished behind the other two, slightly behind, but behind. Three-horse race going into the fall at this stage in his career is not what's happening. He's at Syracuse, and I think everyone hopes he does well there.
So good on them for letting him know that. You know what I mean? I thought that was very classy of Notre Dame. Hey, you got your degree. You did your time. You were a good soldier here. You were the rare guy who stayed and stuck around. It's not going to work out for you. Go play. I thought that was just first class by Notre Dame.
So you go in there and, Marcus deflects this. And, I said to him, the thing that a lot of people said, he's made Notre Dame likable. In my visit there, of course, I went by my friend Digger Phelps' house. Sure. And, what are you doing in town? I'm doing something with Marcus Digger. I said, he did something even you and Newt Rockney couldn't do. What's that? I said, he makes people like Notre Dame. But he's such a classy guy. They're going to win big. They're going to win for as long as he's there. And also, he's got it to a point to where in years past, it's good job. Brian Kelly did a great job there. Brian Kelly's an excellent football coach. Did a great job at Notre Dame. But they were still in that mode where they would build up. Really good team, chance. Okay, got it. Build it up again. It feels like now that Marcus has been able to use that as a great platform and elevate it where there's not the big rebuild. There's not the build up till everybody on the team's an old guy, which is always great, but everybody's on the team's an old guy. And then you got to wait until everybody on the team's an old guy again. There's consistency there, but they let Angeli go, but Minchie really acquitted himself well in the spring. He did really, really well. CJ Carr has been everything they could hope for in terms of a guy who, even when he knew he wasn't going to play last year, doing everything to get ready for whenever his opportunity would come this year. So, I feel like that. I think most believe it'll be Carr ultimately. I mean, that's not Pete Thamel news breaking. It's not like, they whispered it's going to be. It's not like that at all. I'm just saying that the outside perception for those of us who watch believe it'll probably be Carr. Might not be. Maybe, maybe Minchie goes and crushes it, in the fall and wins the job. Who knows?
You think they could do Carr with a Minchie package?
I think so. I mean, I actually asked Marcus that, and his response was exactly what you would expect. While offering the caveat, everybody's still competing here. We'll see what happens. But his response was not that per se, but it was, I will do whatever it takes to help this team win football games. So it means nothing's off the table philosophically, so, we'll see how that plays out. But, I feel like even with some of the guys they lost, they're loaded. Now they had another, Jagisaw has another injury, so they're going to be without him for a while after the four-wheeler accident that he had. We'll see what the timeline is on that. I think Bortello is hurt again. I think he tore a pec, if I remember correctly. So, they've got a couple of guys who to start the season won't be there. But, as long as they get this quarterback thing fixed, I believe that I think they're gonna be really good.
Schedule's tough.
I mean, schedule's brutal early. If they get past it early, it eases up.
Boise is their easy game.
Yeah. I mean, they've got open with Miami. They've got A&M coming to them on the 13th of September.
Mm-hmm.
They've got
early
the Boise
bye,
game
right?
that you mentioned. Pardon?
Early bye.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's the way it goes. I think it goes. Miami and Texas A&M with the bye in between, which is probably helpful because it'll be a short week coming off that game. But I mean, again, inexperienced guys, and it doesn't take a lot, as to cost you a couple games. Now all of a sudden you're in a little bit of trouble. But unlike some years for Notre Dame, they won't be able to point and say, well, schedule, they didn't really play anybody. They'll assuming that these teams are what we think they will be by the end, their schedule will be representative. It's not as if they have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to reiterate.
You think it's ultimately Carr?
Probably, but I will say this, like a few people up there told me in recent weeks that Minchie was really better throughout the spring. Everybody saw Carr crush the spring game, and I think that's where sentiment and perception came from. But Minchie's an impressive guy, and Minchie fits better, Rece, with what Mike Denbrock has done. If you look at Riley Leonard, you look at Des Ritter at Cincinnati, you look obviously at Jaden Daniels. Minchie has that element. Carr is an alpha, but he's pure pro. You know what I mean? He's not gonna scoot to dude. So it's it will be an interesting sea change in the offense if you do eliminate that run game.
This is the second time that we've brought up a situation where one guy probably performed a little better in practice and the other guy performed a little better in the spring game.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of harkens back to what we talked about at the beginning about when the lights come on. That's not to suggest the guys who had better practices when the game lights come on, might not play better. But that's also the difficulty sometimes in assessing quarterback races when you're dealing with unknowns. Another one that I think is pretty interesting, and how long it stays in the spotlight remains to be seen because of how many games they may or may not win, is Colorado and replacing Shedeur Sanders. Now, they've got a young guy, they've got a veteran guy. What are you hearing from Colorado about how that race might break down between Caden Salter and Juju Lewis?
Well, I do think it's wide open, and they're very different players. Caden Salter, I believe, had 23 wins as a starter at Liberty. That's a lot of wins just in general in modern college football. I think 23-9 might have been his record as a starter there. And had tip Marissa Dowling for feeding me some good nuggets at Big 12 Media Day. And that's more wins than any Big 12 quarterback has returning. And this is a very good crop of Big 12 quarterbacks. So Juju Lewis was interesting. He was at Big 12 Media Days as well, Rece. And he's a year, remember, he went to college a year early. So he's not only a true freshman, he's really a high school senior in age. And this isn't a knock on him. You could.
Is he 17? Is it like
I actually don't know his
Williams?
numerical. I don't know his numerical age. Spending a little bit of time around him, he's young. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't. You're around some of these guys. Like Josh Hoover was this way. Sorry, Robinson. They're 21, 2, 3-year-old guys, and they really pop. He was a little shy, little wide-eyed at it all. I had never seen a true freshman at Media Days, by the way. Certainly never one in his high school. So God bless Coach Prime. He's who you want to talk to, right? He's one of the most interesting players in college football. Now, Juju won't have that element of the run game there. He's a pure passer. Remember, he was committed to USC. He would have been the number one player, or certainly number one quarterback in this current high school class if he had stayed. But everything works faster in college football now. He went there early. They open with Georgia Tech, so fascinating opener, as we saw with Georgia Tech openers last year, standing on the field at Aviva Stadium, Rece. Possessions will be at a premium. So my hunch is, and this is just a hunch, is that they're going to go with Caden Salter because it's not to start the season because he's played a lot and there's not a lot of time. You don't have 2 drives to ease into college football against Georgia Tech because you might only get, what did Florida State have that night? 9 possessions, I think. Yeah. It was a masterclass in keep away by Brent Key and Buster Faulkner that night. So that's a fascinating opener that probably won't get a lot of attention. I believe it's a Friday night on ESPN with Tech going there. But yeah, no, I think that is a really interesting quarterback battle. Remember, Caden Salter was a good enough recruit where he was committed to Tennessee, I believe in the vaunted Jeremy Pruitt era, got jammed up legally, had to exit, found a soft spot at Liberty, and has been a very good player there was a very good player there and a productive player there for a long time. Not as good last year as he had been in previous seasons. So will be interesting to see how Coach Prime uses him.
And the other one, and we touched on it a little bit in the last podcast, one of the aggregators said that, I didn't really understand, said if this doesn't come to fruition, that I would live to regret the statement. I didn't really understand how, because I said if Alabama got good quarterback play, they'd be great. If they didn't, they'd probably lose 3 or 4 games. That seems to be a pretty obvious statement.
Live with your regret, Rece Davis. Live with that regret. That's how you live. You'll just be in the fetal position, riddled with regret.
Like nobody's ever been wrong in a prediction before. You know what I think is a little bit different with the Alabama quarterback race as opposed to the other ones? I think the most compelling thing, something catastrophic would have to happen in the fall for Ty Simpson not to start the opener against Florida State. I think that's fair. A fair assessment.
Yeah, I think that's my presumption.
So the real question there is not so much who's going to win the race, but the question there is how long is the leash?
Yeah, that's fair.
If there needs to be one. Now, there are some of these others that you sort of feel like that if one guy wins it, if CJ Carr wins the Notre Dame job, you feel like they're going to let him play. If Julian Sayin wins the Ohio State job, they're going to let him play. Now, look, we are exempting ourselves from the obvious. If one of these guys, heaven forbid, but one of these guys goes out in their high-profile opener and their first 4 passes get intercepted, and their 5th pass attempt, they get strip sack, fumbled. Okay, they're coming out. I mean, everybody understands this, but I'm saying just normally, how long is the leash? And I think that can be pretty indicative of what a race really looked like in fall camp. Is once you name the starter, how long is he the starter?
Sure.
And, how much are you playing the other guy? Are you committed to playing another guy in more than a specific situation? You mentioned a potential for, just to use an example, a Kenny Menchie package at Notre Dame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not talking that. We're talking more of the Devin Brown's going to play the 3rd series against Indiana. I keep going back to that year with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. It's a recent quarterback race with a really good team involved. That kind of thing. So I think that's the most fascinating question with that. Does Simpson seize the job to the degree that he is the guy no matter what? Or is there, he's earned the right, but he's got to hold on to it. Everybody has to hold on to it, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean, that he has to, how long is the leash? Do they say, oh, well, holy cow, we need a spark here late in the second quarter? I don't know. I think that's pretty fascinating for some of these jobs as well.
Oh, I think so too. The Alabama race is interesting because Keelan Russell is supremely talented. Remember, he was committed to SMU and just kept rising. Bama swooped in and got him. That was really one of the first recruiting power plays of the Kalen DeBoer era. They swept into Dallas and they plucked him. He is dynamic. He is electric and probably not ready yet, but that's not to say he won't be ready eventually this season. So no, that'll be fascinating. But I do think you're opening amid the I don't think you're going to roll. I don't think you're going to roll Austin Mack or true freshman Keelan Russell out there. It'll be. I really am bullish on Alabama's weapons. By the way, Jeremy Bernard has been like a hyper productive, dynamic college player. Probably doesn't get enough attention, Rece, if we're being honest, right? For a long time, and obviously Ryan Williams. He's 18 now, so we can be excited about that. But I do think
I looked it up. Juju's 17, will be on opening day. Will turn 18 pretty quickly. Colorado too. So.
Yes.
They've got
that's a lot on a 17-year-old.
I'm pretty high on Austin Mack too. Now I haven't seen enough of him to be completely sold, but I remember watching him just throw at Washington, and then he got a smattering of action last year in some of the blowout games. I mean, he looks the part too now.
Yeah. Kellen DeBoer doesn't miss on a lot of quarterbacks. No. So that's
the other one you mentioned, you sent a list of something you were thinking about that I sort of looked at as being settled. Oregon's set with Dante Moore, right? I mean,
I would think so. I would think so. But I do think there is some. Is it Austin Novosad? Is that how you say it, Rece?
Yeah, I think I'll have to confirm that pronunciation, but I think you're right on that.
Yeah, that's phonetic. It's Austin Novosad. He was one of the guys, I believe, at Manning who popped a little bit. There's some raw talent there. So now Dante Moore, they paid 7 figures to be the backup last year, so they like him, and they had chances, right? They could have gone after John Mateer. They could have gone after some of these bigger, higher profile guys. And they stuck with him. So it will be interesting.
He had 5 starts at UCLA, so he's not coming in cold.
He's not coming in cold, but he did have some struggles there. That was not. But sometimes that's good. I don't always think struggling is bad. Tom Brady struggled. These guys, as you come along, some callus, I think helps reset your trajectory, if you will. But I just think there's enough at stake at Oregon where they're gonna roll the right guy.
Okay, you started with some trivia, so I will now finish with you with some prediction, barring injury, which we hope doesn't happen to any of these guys. So we'll say no injuries here.
Yep.
How many quarterbacks does Ohio State start by the end of the season? Meaning, do they?
I think they have one. I think they have one starting quarterback
for the whole season. Okay,
for the whole season.
Michigan.
I think they have multiple starting quarterbacks.
Me too. Notre Dame.
Multiple.
Ooh, Okay. Colorado,
Multiple.
Oregon.
Multiple.
I'm going to say one on
Okay,
Oregon.
that's
So
fair.
far, I've agreed. I've agreed with you with
All
all
right.
of them. Alabama,
Multiple.
multiple. Okay. Russell or Mac?
Russell.
Ooh.
Late.
I will say this: if your prediction is right about that, then it is highly likely that my prediction earlier is the second part of the prediction, that it's just going to be a normal average season, will be the one that's right there. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I'm pulling
I'm
that
going
out.
to
Like
say,
I wasn't ready for this, so that was just off
yeah,
the cuff.
yeah.
I don't have a lot of
I think
conviction there, but I wanted to answer.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go one there. I'm going to go one there. I'm going to go one Ohio State, multiple Michigan, one Notre Dame, multiple
Oh,
Colorado,
okay.
one Oregon.
All right.
So
I'm
again,
rooting for chaos, Rece, as usual.
let
So
okay. Let me ask you. Let me ask you one more,
yeah.
because we didn't really talk about this as being a quarterback race. Georgia, one starting quarterback this year or multiple starting quarterbacks this year?
I mean, his sister's named Georgia, so I'm not gonna discount Gunner like that.
I'm not discounting Gunner. I'm leaning a little bit multiple,
Interesting. Interesting.
just
Why?
just a hair. I don't know.
Okay.
Gut feeling. I look, you you hear about Gunner Stockton, you listen to him, you watch him, you hear the story. You want him. You want him to be the guy to be successful, and I hope he is. And I think he will be. But I think the question is going to be: Are they going to need something? They're going to need a little spark. They're going to need a little change of pace or something. So
You want to know one of the more interesting points brought up at SEC Media Day by Eli Drinkwitz when he wasn't dipping into conspiracy theories and stuff? He said, I don't know why more people aren't talking about Georgia's national title hopes getting derailed in essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but like the context of it was a meaningless SEC title game when Carson Beck got hurt. He said, as we're talking about the playoff and we're looking at the future, he was like, Georgia would have been more of a contender with Carson Beck at quarterback. And he said, everyone's ignoring the fact that in this game, that both teams were obviously going to the playoffs still, that more people didn't mention how that game ended up costing Georgia its title hopes. I just thought that was an interesting thing to
yeah,
say out loud.
I think people did, but not to the degree you might have expected. And
Yeah.
by the way, I love Drinkwitz. Huge fan. He's great TV, and I couldn't disagree with him more about this. Tiered 30 team. I mean, I understand
Yeah.
what he's saying, but
Yeah.
it's too much. But he makes a great point about the championship games, because already, even at 12, you had a team that was in, and they lost their quarterback. And even if Gunnar Stockton proves to be first team All SEC this year, in that moment in time, though he certainly acquitted himself well that afternoon and leading them to victory, but in that moment in time, he wasn't seasoned, or he didn't have the reps to put him in that situation. So obviously it diminished their chances. It diminished their offense against a great Notre Dame team. Maybe Notre Dame beats Georgia with Carson Beck too, but it certainly changed things a lot for Georgia. And Eli's absolutely right about that. I mean, there may come a time when as things evolve. Right now, it's against the Constitution and the DNA of college coaches to think that way. But if you go into a conference championship game under this current system, at some point you're like, oh, look, we're in either way. Love, love to have the bye or whatever, but more important, not to get our guy hurt. It'll be interesting to see if coaches start looking at it that way at some point. I hope not, because it diminishes
Sure.
competition.
Yeah.
But you also understand. I understand the point he's making for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just thought it was an
reasonable,
interesting point to
very much so,
amplify, in
very
front of
much
some
so.
microphones.
I really think, isn't it going to be fascinating, all of this foregone conclusion that we were going to 14 or 16, if they end up going, you know what? Can't agree on this. 12's good. You know,
That's the
now that
vibe
they've
right
got
now,
the
Reese. Now
now that they've
everybody's
got the
holding their
seating,
cards up, but that's the
yeah.
vibe.
Now
Like,
that they've got the seating straightened out, Pete. I mean, I'm not against 16, as I've said, and I think 5-11 is probably best as long as you can. If you need to make changes to the parameters that the committee uses for selection criteria, if you need to incorporate some version of a formula to make everybody feel better about that, okay. But I think rather than all of these automatic bids, I think that's the better course of action. But if you are already with 5 auto bids, 7 at larges, and it's a straight seeding model, big enough to me. I mean, so it'll be pretty fascinating if it stays that way. And I wouldn't be opposed to it, actually. I mean, I've sort of been dragged into the expansion each time,
sure.
always saying
Yeah.
I'm good with the expansion, but understand the cost that comes along with it.
Yes.
And, like 12 was fun, great on campus things. And if we went to 16 and that gave us more on campus opportunities, that would be fantastic. But in terms of the competition and the need to get a number of teams in there that can win the national championship, we've got enough now. I mean, I know what people are going to say that the lower seeds won. Well, it was artificially lower seeds, somewhat to a degree with the way the seeding went. So
yeah. Before we go down a full playoff rabbit hole and blow through our allotted time, I will just say that once the idea of 16 has been planted, if you go ahead with 12 and you are a commissioner who went along with going ahead with 12, you are at risk of vitriol from the fan bases of 13, 14, 15, 16. So say three of those, no, say three of those are from
yeah,
one league. And
yeah.
you're out there being like, we're good at 12, we're good at 12. You all of a sudden get in the crosshairs. And I do think there's a quiet pressure there. Everybody wants more access, right? Tony Batiti was really the first to push for more. He has a problem that his league's too big, right? And there's too many good teams. So I do think we will get there eventually because the AQs kind of crash and burn so famously and quickly here. I do think like there's going to be just some like playing with your food schedule this, selection committee this, concessions here, 9-game schedule. Like these, if you give a group of college administrators till December 1st, they're going to take, they're going to be deliberating November 29th. I don't know how many days are in November, but like they're just not going to, nobody's going to get together and be like, what works best? How does it go? Everybody's claimed their slice of the cookie. And this is just the way college athletics have operated for a long time. So I expect no imminent resolution. And I would always err on the side of more access because ultimately that's going to benefit these bloated leagues. As Greg Sankey said, we're a super league.
It's very true. And there is no more ridiculous argument than saying, well, we're not doing this unless they play 9 conference games. And this is not just about the SEC. The SEC, in my judgment, and the Big Ten, they should play 10 conference games. So it's not like I'm against it. I wish they would do that. And then I wish the committee would really exercise football judgment and who's best. But the thing is, with the size of these bloated leagues, you can play 9 games, you can play 10 games, you can play 11 conference games, and they're not going to be the same. This idea from a lot of the fans, especially the loud ones, and a lot of them from the Big Ten on the X machine about 9 games. How can you not recognize the obvious fact right in front of your face that nobody's 9 games or 8 games or 10 games or 11 games are the same based on the math, the sheer number of it being a particular game? The leagues are so big now. When the Big 12 had 10 teams and they all played each other, okay, now you can assess that equally. The rest of them you can't. I mean, Indiana's Big Ten schedule was not the same as Ohio State's last year. It just wasn't. I mean, that's not to say they didn't deserve to go to the playoff, but this idea that everybody hits the same magical number and that's going to make the evaluation equal is dumb, because it's not. You have to just look at the schedule. Don't look so much at the number of conference games played and look at the schedule in its entirety. whatever the schedule is in its entirety, conference games, non-conference games, cupcake games, evaluate that. Evaluate the whole thing. And whoever has the strongest one, they get the brownie point. They get the edge in the evaluation. I enjoyed talking about the quarterbacks more. And I'm going to brush up on the trivia. I'm going to brush up on the trivia, man.
A little disappointing, Rece. A little disappointing. We need you by August. We need you back in. We need you back in shape.
I will.
Maybe you should have ran with Marcus instead of played. Tonk.
I know it. Maybe I get rid of the brain fog or something. I mean, the Trevor Lawrence miss is going to haunt me, but because of that, I'm sure.
I have given you a hair clue, by the way. That was
I know it. He's going to lead our Jaguars to the playoffs. So. We will continue with the podcast next week and start breaking down these conferences, sleeper teams we believe that have a chance to go to the college football playoff. Thanks for listening. We encourage you to download the podcast or subscribe so you never miss a single episode. We'll talk next time.